5, 4, 3, 2, 2, 1, 1, 1, 1, 0.
This is episode number 413 of WP Watercooler, full site editor for agencies.
Yeah, that's right. We're doing it.
I'm Jason Tucker. You can find me at Jason Tucker on Twitter.
Tweet, tweet. Tweet, tweet.
I'm Steve Zangen. I'm the founder of Zeek Interactive, and I run the OC WordPress meetup.
No bird. Oh, little bird. Hi, I'm Say Reed. I make WordPress, tweet WordPress. Sure. At Say Reed Media. Sure. Works.
Easy for you to
And
say.
y'all know who it is. It's your boy Jason Cosper, aka Fat Mullenweg, back at it again on the world's most influential WordPress podcast.
You heard it here first.
And that influential podcast can be found on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, I guess Spotify. Yeah.
Ooh, shoot. I have to make some sort of decision.
Ever since that Spotify thing, man, I'm just like,
forgot.
I put Spotify at everything.
I forgot where I'm at.
Did you see Steve had a little bird this time?
Yeah, I saw
Yes,
that. Thank
Steve
you.
had a little bird? I just want
Yeah.
to make sure Steve had a bird on it.
Thank
He
you.
put a little bird on it. It's better than a big bird.
I appreciate it. Look who we have.
Look who we have.
Heavy hitters.
So we have Brian Gardner and we have Bill Erickson on the show today. And we started out talking about this stuff last week on the show. And then on Twitter, we started discussing this. And then I was like, you know what?
There's more.
I mean, you can only put so much in a tweet, and you can make, Bill ended up having to do a thread just to be able to like answer a question. And we're like, you know what? Let's like get on the show and talk.
Talk it out. Talk it out. Talk it
Welcome, guys.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
well,
Thanks for having us.
Well,
I
we'll
just
have-
want to point out real quick just
Mhm.
why we all have years in our names here is because during the pre-show we realized we have all been in WordPress a very long time, and the math that I did not do properly is 98 years.
Wow.
98 years of collective
Are we
WordPress
sure we
experience.
all had trouble with this math, with this equation? I know it was simple addition, but
We
we
don't
came
really
up
know
with.
what year it is, so that's probably the problem.
So Betty White outlived us all here, right?
Right.
Anyway, I don't know what that means other than like, are we curmudgeons or are we like, elders?
At least for the last couple of years we've been.
Dinosaur? Or
WordPress
wisdom?
royalty.
Sure.
At least nobility, if nothing else, in the hierarchy of feudalism. I mean, we do have a dictator, so I guess that would be the proper structure.
This is true. This is true.
Do
So
we
yeah,
have
so
today?
we called you all to come
We
on the
have
show
someone
today
here today.
and talk about Steve's intervention. So no.
This is the
But last-
council of the
we-
elders, is what
We
this
only
is.
have a half an hour.
Yeah, we have an half an hour.
It's so
So
much longer.
yeah, so last week I asked Steve the question of agency work and using full site editor as an agency. And I know you folks either run agencies or you're doing agency type work, small, medium, or large. Where are we at with full site editor and agency work? And are we even getting close to touching it?
We should name it. What is this land?
What is this land?
What would you call it?
Land of misfit toys.
That works.
That actually has so many layers to it. I mean,
It sure does.
wow, that was good right out of the gate there. Whew.
So what about you, Brian? Where are you at on that? And we'll just do a couple minutes of this real quick, and then we'll kind of really dive into this.
Yeah, obviously I'm not, I think, of all here, I'm the least one involved directly as an agency. I don't freelance. I'm not part of an agency, but I'm a huge proponent of full site editing. I also work for WP Engine, and agencies are really, really, really important to us in our business model. So I come at it sort of from that perspective. What can I learn from those who aren't using full site editing? How can we make it easier for them to use, and so on?
Totally makes sense.
We're all the people who have sites on your servers. Is really
Yes.
what that is structured.
Right.
Correct answer.
Yeah.
What about you, Bill?
Yeah, so in December, our team spent more time digging into the more recent stuff in WordPress just because we had a little bit of downtime updating our starter themes. We basically rebuilt our whole design system around theme.json. So we're like super excited about that. We also played around with full site editing, and it's definitely not ready for client work. And I also don't know if I will. I have a hard time seeing a time when it would make sense in an agency world, just because it's not really aligned with the kind of work we're doing. I think it's a great tool for the DIYers, gives them a lot more power to design their own site without having to hire an agency. But on the agency side, I haven't really seen where it would bring value to the types of stuff we're producing for our clients.
Well, part of my answer last week was from an agency perspective is, I think the first question I have to ask is, do you want to give your clients that level of control to mess up their own site?
Right.
I'm gonna, yeah.
Well, so
I'm actually pulling some punches when I say that. I was saying I'm not going to pull any punches. I did, but go ahead, say.
like as you were saying it, you were pulling the punch. You're like, I'm not pulling this.
Yes, no, I am pulling punches.
You know, I think about the block. There's this weird like convergence of all of these things, right? Full site editing is somehow Gutenberg, but like part of this path to full site editing. But like the idea of like block patterns, right? And layouts that you can give, like pre-assigned layouts that you can give to your clients. That makes sense to me from an editor, from an agency perspective, from me having my clients have the ability to like throw up a layout for a new program they're doing, or, you know, put out, you know, some special thing they want to make an announcement for, or, you know, make a column or something. Right. So like, I think that is great, but how does that translate? I've been trying to wrap my mind around that, how that translates into theme parts, right? Like, or template parts, and what you're even understanding the context of what that is, as opposed to a block pattern, right? Like, is there a case where an agency is making microsites with a different header? Like who is even changing their headers, let alone client?
That's what I was getting at. I think all the stuff that you said is valid to, you know, and those tools are important to give your clients, but do you want them controlling the entire site or a part of a site, right? You sort of have to give them some guardrails to work within, right? So that there's less for them to break.
Yeah, like page templates, you can make a blank page, you can make alternate headers, and all that stuff is just like ready to go, because clients don't want to build it. Like, what's the difference? Like, I find this is what I'm finding is it's like redundant, right? We've got page templates, we've got block patterns now, we've got all this control. What is this adding? It's adding
all of that control that we, with our 100 years of knowledge, know how to do, putting it into the hands of people who have 100 days worth of knowledge, right? And I think Bill hit on this, that I think WordPress is so big that it can actually allow both to coexist, right? Sort of with the backward compatibility, historicalness of WordPress, with the opting into full site editing for themes. Like, you allow agencies to work with it off or just not opted into, and you allow these new things into the hands of people who cannot build a page template in PHP.
Yeah, I'd say no code option for building a site without having to use a page builder plugin. So yeah, I think it really enables a lot of people who want that, who don't have that ability. They don't know PHP. They haven't been building WordPress sites for a long time. They can do a lot more now. But again, like Steve was saying, we don't necessarily need that at the agency level, because our clients aren't trying to build their own websites. They're hiring a professional to set things up for them so that they don't break it.
So they don't have to. Like, they don't even want that power, right?
Most of my clients don't even know it exists, right? So they don't want to, you know, play within the back end.
They're so abstracted even from like and now with like headless and whatever, you really can abstract from. You can block out everything you need to block out. So, but okay, here's my question. Given all of that, does this belong in core? If it's really something that a good chunk of users are just immediately going to turn off?
Well, given the market shift,
right?
It's opt-in from a themes perspective,
right?
But you have to understand that this is like a Wix competitor. So this is all targeting the people that essentially don't have the budgets for agency work.
Yeah, but the thing is, I don't know if
you said the W word.
I don't know if you've used Wix or Squarespace. I'm assuming
you said the S word.
Have gone in there and set up sites. This ain't it. this is not a good, like
It's not it yet.
it's not
Yes.
it yet, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so then we're back to the question of why are we putting it in core and trumpeting it as if it is ready and pushing it to everyone? Is it testing?
I really feel like it's the more eyes that are on it, the more people, because right now, basically, to borrow a metaphor, we're changing the engine on a plane while it's in flight.
I like that it's not a wagon on a hill, it's a plane in flight.
No.
That is way more extreme and probably more accurate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, we are basically, and honestly, the full site editor for all of us with all of our years of WordPress experience, honestly, not built for us. This is an end user thing, and we are not end users. We have quit being end users a long damn time ago.
Look,
Definitely true.
at
But I
this
think that's
point,
why the
in a 5.9 point, this
oh,
is not for end users.
I've lost connection.
Oh, okay. He's we
I
hear
lost
you.
connection. Yeah, I'm here.
We can hear you.
Okay. I think that's why the topic of this show was written the way it was, right? Because the question is there any use for this in the agency world?
Well, so I build for my clients sites that they're able to, using page builders, and this has just become part of the workflow because they needed that control before, Divi, Beaver Builder, they've all been doing this. Elementor has been doing this for a while now and doing it really well and giving the clients that need that control, and they have the appropriate locks and things that you can do to provide that to your client. So it's not like this doesn't exist, right? It has an existing. So I don't think that it is meant for the end user. Like, we've all gone in there, like,
it's not meant for the end user.
What a template part is. Like, that's
not meant for an end
understand.
user. It's not meant for an end user now.
That's so annoying.
But what doesn't make sense to me is like why
out there like this.
Like why does that stuff have to exist then? Like why didn't we just change the whole thing so we're not having to have template parts and not having to have, just have a header and footer and just call it a day? Like why does somebody's cat blog need to have all this stuff?
And I think the danger in releasing it, out to us as I think Casper put it great, as a testing, as a testing tool is, if somebody goes in there and starts to try to use it for what it's designed for, to build sites, right? It's going to be broken. It's going to feel broken. And the perception is going to be at that point, well, WordPress is broken.
Yeah, which seems to happen every time. I don't know, like this happened with 5.0. We're like, oh, it wasn't really ready, but we launched it anyway because 5.0 and WordPress Camp US and whatever. But like, why are we releasing broken things and driving people marketing it as if it's this great new thing that's not ready? And then I feel like we're just making a bad case for that end user.
I think that's a question for Brian.
Yeah, Brian.
I think it's a definition of what is perceived as broken versus what is perceived as I don't understand how to use, which are two totally different things, or why I should use this certain thing. I will say that 5.9 dialed back on, and they pushed out the launch even further to mitigate things being broken or untested, and they dialed back a lot of what full site editing was supposed to include. And so I think
still broke a lot of things.
Well, just imagine what would have happened had they shipped on time or, left things intact. I think they've chosen to say we're going to ship and we're going to fix along the way, because if you don't, you just don't get enough people testing it. Like WordPress beta tester plugin has like nobody using it. No one's, it's the only way to get the amount of people to break things and expose the things that need to be fixed. And the hope is that at 6.0, it all comes together, after 3 or 4 years, and can be used in a way by various people. I will say this, I think there's a room absolutely for block themes and patterns for agencies. I built Frost as a wireframe sort of emulator, right? Rapid prototyping tool. Like I could build layouts and sites and like deploy it. And then the hope is to then turn it all off, right? Like use it to expedite my workflow. As a creator, as a developer, as an agency, I can spin up sites in like literally 5 minutes because I've got the things built, to import. And then if you can do that in a way where then you just turn it off, and I know there's API lockdowns coming. I mean, WordPress, they have ears. They know that this is a thing. And so if like you can use it to build it and then turn it off and then hand it over, like I think that's part of the goal.
I built 3 sites in Frost now, just little kind of mini whatever sites. And yeah, I mean, it is a rapid prototyping tool. I handed it to some people who it was like, the classic thing that you do when someone finds out that you make websites is like, yeah, I can do a website for your nonprofit. I can do a website for your whatever. Like I've turned around and a couple to scratch my own itch, one for a friend's nonprofit, and it took me no time. I mean, Tucker has seen me building them, and it all happens in like just a matter of like an hour or two. Like on my lunch break, I can get something like thrown together, copy and paste the content from the old site, put it in something that looks good, that's built in blocks, and then we're good to go.
So okay, block patterns. How is that not even redundant with template parts? Like
they're two total. It's apples and oranges. Template parts are where patterns go into.
Yeah. I mean, I realize that having played with it, but like, I mean, in terms of use, right? Like, it's really just about like the archive pages and making old template pages, essentially, is what it is. And building those, which is agencies now are building those for clients and providing them, right? Essentially.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the question is there.
So I mean, right now the block editor lets you manage what's in the content area, and full site editing now lets you manage what's outside the content area. So whether it's header and footer or archive pages, it's about just bringing the block editor to wider scope.
I'm just trying. I really am trying to give it the benefit of the doubt. In this case, is what I'm trying to do. I'm like trying to be like, where could it be useful? How could it be useful? I know you kind of talked about that, Bill, like with versioning in your tweet. Right? Like,
yeah,
I am struggling to imagine a scenario of full site editing that would work for a site you're trying to hand off. Like that's what I'm trying to say. Like this doesn't, in theory, like you would hand off it with set page templates, right? Like you're not like, when are you going to give that power to someone who doesn't want it? This is what I'm trying to say. Other than block patterns.
Yeah, it's almost like if you're going to use like leverage like revisions as a way of like doing a snapshot of the site, and that's your version control. I just don't know what the like right way to approach that is. The second I read that from you, Bill, I was just like, oh yeah, like how do you do this? Like what is the right way to approach this? And I don't think anyone's even come up with the best way to do this in a full in-browser experience, being able to do version control like that, other than just backing up from your host.
Yeah, I don't know. That's why I've avoided that element. But yeah, I mean, theoretically, if there was some way for it to write to a file rather than just saving it on the database, there'd be a way for us to sync that more easily. But yeah, like the core problem, I mean, there are a few problems I listed in the tweet, but that was one of them. Like we like to version control everything so that we can test in multiple environments. And when we deploy code, we're not overwriting changes. And now that both with full site editing, but also like I'm really excited about theme.json, but and I like the idea of being able to override that. But now there's no way for me to pull in that without having to pull down a full copy of the site. So like if the client changed their blue, like their primary color from blue to green, my version doesn't have that and is not aware of that change. So that is one area where it can be challenging for agencies who are working with the client on implementing these things.
So I've got a great question here.
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask this question twice, and I'm just going to look at the 5 faces just to see how you respond to the context and way in which I'm saying this. Exactly.
It's our first React video, folks.
So what
Okay,
do you
we
think?
got to go neutral first.
Yes, everybody get neutral. Okay. Question number 1. What do you think about full site editing? Question number 2. Okay. Everybody wipe it clean. Here we go. We're going to have some fun here.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think of full site editing when you could turn it off and clients won't ever touch it? And the only difference between the two is that we're in between. As Casper said, we're in flight. Like it's still being worked on. And in 6 months from now, I think the full site editing thing, as it relates to the way agencies see it, is going to be totally different once it's done and once it can be turned off, and when you don't have to turn that particular functionality over to a client and you can lock it down. I think at that point, everyone's opinions look different.
So I totally agree. But wait, I have this is part of the article I've been trying to shape since last week, but I'm just going to talk about it here. Do you think that the amount of people, the amount of all of the WordPress users who are using that will use full site editing is equal to 80%?
Oh.
Any of you?
No.
Bill?
No.
Okay. Therefore, it does not meet WordPress's own declaration of what should go into core. That's in my article, but we can have it here.
I think the customizer did a better job of that, because at least it told you're customizing things.
It standardized the theme options panels of Doom and tried to at least cram them into something that had some standard of UI between different options, right? There are different options in your theme panel, in your theme customizer, but it wasn't like in a completely different UI. So the theme customer, I think, was useful, as is Gutenberg. But so I'm asking this 80% question. If we all think it's something you should be able to turn off, then why isn't it just a plugin? Why isn't it just WordPress.com? You make your own, full site editor. Like, what the heck?
Because
reasons.
Let me.
I'm going to link to that just so you guys know I'm not making random crap.
No, I assume you're right, but I'm going to offer a different kind of a devil's advocate viewpoint here, right?
Yeah.
Because the title of the show is full site editing for agencies. I actually believe there are smaller agencies that are cranking out fast websites that would use this, right? It might be currently working in, a Beaver Builder, or Divi, or Elementor, right? That would switch over to this at some point because they need to, they're doing inexpensive websites and they need to crank out something as quick as possible without having any, without doing any code, right? So Bill and I, and say are also kind of speaking from our viewpoint, running our agency, but I think there are agencies that might use this.
Okay, go ahead, Casper.
No, I was going to say something that I clumsily just tried to link in our group chat and managed to put on the screen here. Matt has his whole thing about basically usage is the best oxygen for ideas. His article from like 12 years ago about shipping like a 1.0, and actually just over my shoulder here, I've got a little thing tacked up on my wall that says shitty and done is better than perfect and 3 months late. I think it's like, why is this not a plugin? Why is this shipping in WordPress? It's because they want to get the most eyeballs on this. And they know that it's going to be a rough few years. But when we finally get this promised land of the actual full site editor, of the block editor, that it's going to be better for users overall. I just think that it's going to be a rough transition, and we're probably going to have a lot more episodes where we're complaining about how bad it is.
It'll be a lot less rough than Gutenberg because it's not going to affect every existing WordPress site. So when they push that out, now everyone's editor changed unless you installed Classic Editor. When 6.0 comes out, no one's going to see full site editing because they don't have a full site editing theme.
Except for it's in the launch page of when WordPress launches, and it's like you can edit your entire site. Like when you do the update, not the launch, sorry, when you do the update, it's like now you can do your entire thing. So if your clients do any updates or it shows them that screen at all, then they're like, what's that?
Go ahead. Sorry, Bill.
Oh, I say it's definitely going to be a conversation that's going to come up more often. We've had clients already asking us if the themes we're building are full site editing compatible. And the moment that WordPress ships and says full site editing now built in, it's going to be a conversation. It's not going to break things.
Just add some CSS that hides that field.
Hides the announcement.
Hide the announcement. Look, Casper, I understand the whole move fast and break things philosophy, right? I get it. But
Right.
I was going to say something similar to what Bill said, right? We're going to go through a bit of a roller coaster. We're just coming off of the Gutenberg roller coaster, right? We're a little burned out at this point.
I mean, the Gutenberg roller coaster hasn't stopped. I mean,
I get it.
Yeah.
We're still in it. So, how much
Right.
how much more can you add?
Well, it depends on what you're defining as Gutenberg, because most people think Gutenberg is the editor, which it really isn't anymore, right? And so, to the credit of WordPress, they offloaded the development into an opt-in plugin to get people to use it, to find out, and as things get fixed and worked on, then it goes into core. So at least at that point, there's still like an element of it's gone off into development mode before it just got shipped in core. So if it's getting shipped in core, it means it's gone through the plugin. A lot of people have been using it. A lot of eyes have been on it. So like there's almost like a baby step in terms of it's not just going from like idea to core in like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Totally
See, I think out of everybody on the water cooler show normally, I think I'm probably the most bullish on Gutenberg and full site editing. Like I have the plugin installed on sites. I'm trying to like look at some of the bleeding edge stuff. I want to know what's coming. But again, that's also part of my job, is to know what's coming, to be tuned into that.
And by the way, I think we all share the same sentiment. We want the platform to grow.
Sure.
We're not looking for the platform to stay stagnant. That's not what we're saying here.
Right.
That's all. I just was making a statement. That's it. There's no question there.
Okay. Brian was going to say something before I kind of got us down this other conversational rabbit hole. So I'm interested. My brain's kind of itching to find out what he was going to say before, since we only have about 3 minutes left.
So pretend like the billable time is not the issue here. If a client comes to me, or if I'm on the hook to like fix something or help a client do something, and they say, can you add social media icons to my header? Like old school way of doing things, that's like a 20-minute project. I got to register a widget here. I got to do all of these things. Like now and the way future, like literally, first of all, I'll be able to do it in like 15 seconds. And then it'll take me another minute to show them how they can do it for the next time. So even though I understand all of the points that are being made here, and you guys have agencies and there's a lot at risk, right? And I get that, I acknowledge that. But I also see the gold in what it's allowing, what I think will become the 80% who want to use all of these things when it's ready. They'll be able to do things that have historically taken forever, or the inability to do it, and put it in the hands of people who are the target audience, I think, kind of moving forward.
By the
I do
way,
not know how we're going to do that. I have to say this. I do
Yeah.
not know how we're going to do that if we're building the entirety of full site editing on HTML comments.
But by the way, Brian can do that in
What?
15 seconds because he's on WP Engine. Other hosts, that would take a minute and 15 seconds.
So I definitely would.
Right.
Small plug.
Let's go.
I'm sorry. I was serious over your joke, but I like your joke better.
No,
no, go ahead.
Please say. Please.
No, I said what I was going to say. Like, we're talking about it's going to get there. It's going to get there. Is it going to get there in the HTML comments table?
Jason, I think next week's episode should be titled "The WordPress Database Schema" and the opportunities for improvement.
Are we really storing all this stuff in the content?
Really? That's going to be the title of the episode. Really? Do you, Bill? Really?
Yeah.
Like, so I don't.
I was going to say, since we've got about a minute left, Bill, do you have anything to add from an agency perspective? I just want to give you a chance to.
Not with regards to full site editing, it'll be interesting to see where it comes. And over the next few years, the more I like the idea of being able to empower people to make their own changes. That's what brought me to WordPress. I got tired of editing static HTML pages, and I wanted to let them be able to manage their content. This is a step in that direction. But yeah, as it is now, it's not ready for client work for agencies. Once it gets to that point, it'll be interesting to see what percentage of agencies adapt their workflow to align with it, and which stick with the more traditional way where we're building the classic themes.
For sure. I actually think it's really interesting, since we're pushing up against time, but I think I do want to say it's really interesting. And I just remembered about Justin Stanton's post about building the new Pagely.com and how they built that with the full site editor. And mind you, they're handing it off to Pagely, who does WordPress hosting. Like they're the client to hand off a full site editing project to, not necessarily a nonprofit or any other clients that I'm sure that we deal with on a day-to-day basis. Like,
Please one more thing I want to say before the end of the show. I just want to ask a rhetorical question to have you think about and muse about, possibly on Twitter, all of us, except Steve, obviously. Is it, if everyone turns it off and agencies start to build in one direction and the other DIY user or whomever starts to build in another direction, is that a fork? That's my question. Rhetorical. Let it simmer.
Could it be a spork?
I think Classic Press already was a fork.
Well, it's classic, but we're not going back to Classic Press. I want Gutenberg for my client.
Now we got 2 forks here.
Well,
as Steve would say, look at the time.
Oh, look at the time. Yeah. We should have ended right on spork. I should have given you a little.
Yeah, that was a good out.
Well, thank you all for hanging out with us. We really appreciate it. We're looking forward to seeing what folks say in the comments and what they say in social media. So talk to y'all later. You have a good one.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thanks for joining us today. Go over to WPwatercooler.com/subscribe to subscribe to this content and all the other content that we put out there.
Let us know.
We're an audio podcast as well as a YouTube video show. So go take a look at us wherever you listen to podcasts. Talk to you later.